Morning, everyone. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give us a quick introduction of what we're going to cover today, and then we'll get right into things. So, obviously, the first 2 days, we talked about some of the expanded functionality, the performance, and really looked at a lot of stuff inside SOLIDWORKS with the whole SOLIDWORKS 2021 in action. And today, we're going to cover this bottom half. So, we're going to look at together with cloud collaboration. And that's where we'll talk about creating the links between SOLIDWORKS and platform and how everything can work on any device. We'll then look at some next level validation, and that's where we're going to look at a little bit more at the simulation side of things with Simolia. If I'm being honest, some of the solve times in SOLIDWORKS simulation 2021 were fast, but Simolia takes that almost to the next stage, and some of those solve times are pretty crazy. We'll then finish it off with cloud-based design. So that's where we're going to actually look at different ways that we could create our models and get the final outputs in regards to the platform. So we'll be looking at tools such as XDesign and XShape, which if you've used SOLIDWORKS before, you'll be more than familiar with. We'll even then look at some sheet metal stuff and look at creating some renders using some of the fast rendering times. And finally, we'll have a little bit of finishing off with a wee showcase of some VR inside SOLIDWORKS again to finish off today, and then we'll wrap things up there. Now, back in July, which for some of us might feel like last week, others it might feel like it was a year ago, SOLIDWORKS launched a brand new breed of SOLIDWORKS called 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS, and frankly, it's pretty awesome because it's as if the team at SOLIDWORKS wanted to get rid of files because who needs to worry about files anymore when you're connected to the platform? It's always in sync, seamless integration, always updated. It's like SolidWorks and the Cloud PLM, but all in one. It is bold, so let's have a quick overview. So I'm going to play a little video for you guys now to showcase what that 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks looks like.
The traditional definition of the workplace is changing. Design teams need to collaborate over great distances and have the flexibility to get work done on the go. Choosing the right CAD tool is paramount. But what about the design data? How can it be stored securely but still provide convenient access at any time, anywhere? 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS offers industry-leading SOLIDWORKS desktop CAD, as well as powerful browser-based CAD solutions, all built from the ground up with secure and convenient cloud data management at its core. SOLIDWORKS Desktop provides dedicated tools and workflows that streamline the design and development of your products from concepts through to reality. Great designs typically start with a sketch. SOLIDWORKS makes this simple and straightforward. Even the most complex ideas are easy to realize with access to instant feedback and standard tools like the Hole Wizard, an extensive library of hole types built right in. SOLIDWORKS enables you to not only modify design dimensions, but also reuse geometry with a simple drag and drop, a great time saver. Because SOLIDWORKS is connected directly to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, you can easily find the components you need with a simple search. Components can be snapped together with ease, no clunky menus or confusing windows to navigate. SOLIDWORKS understands the mechanical relationship between components and can generate lifelike motion in even the most complex assemblies. Understanding the performance of your designs early in the design process is crucial to a successful product launch. SOLIDWORKS provides powerful tools that help you get to market ahead of time and with maximum quality. Documenting your designs is quick and easy. Simply start with a standard drawing sheet and snap 2D views into place. Projection views are created automatically, and section views are just a click away. Save time by importing dimensions straight from the 3D model, or create special dimensions and callouts with intuitive tools. Drawings in SOLIDWORKS are always up to date and contain accurate detail, like automatic bill of materials and item balloons, to make understanding the design easy for manufacturing and suppliers. With 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS, your design data is saved to the secure cloud, making it immediately available to your team and other stakeholders. Your data will always be safely backed up and controlled using maturity workflows and revision management, all without the need to purchase, install, or maintain expensive servers on premises. With 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS, you're no longer tethered to the office, as it includes powerful 3D CAD in a web browser. Build complex 3D parts and assemblies using an intuitive design interface. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform natively understands your CAD data, so you can reference it while creating messages to your team, or while creating intelligent tasks to drive daily work. This streamlines your design process now that contributors don't have to spend time searching for the right documents. They can move forward with certainty, knowing that they're working on the correct document every time. The tight integration between the browser-based CAD tools and the powerful desktop tools allows files to be used interchangeably. Designing is no longer a function of how powerful your computer is, it's a function of where inspiration strikes. Customers demand great-looking products. Take advantage of subdivision modeling in the browser with 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS to create complex shapes that would be difficult to design using traditional 3D CAD methods. Just push and pull in the virtual clay environment to instantly see your product take shape. Also available with 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS is the ability to create high-quality, photorealistic renderings of your products using SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Creating renderings is easy. Drag and drop materials, colors, textures, and environments. Then, use the lightning-fast rendering engine with denoiser AI technology built in to effortlessly create eye-popping images or animations. As your business grows, the 3DEXPERIENCE platform grows with you. Validate your design decisions using Simulia. Take your project management to the next level with integrated project planning tools. Access powerful CAM functionality with Delmia, and so much more. The traditional definition of the workplace is changing, but that doesn't mean that progress comes to a halt. All of these powerful tools make it easy to go from concept to design to manufacture and beyond, no matter where your team members are located.
So hopefully you guys seen it's pretty much identical to SOLIDWORKS, but just a little bit more connected to the platform. If you want some more information on that, then by all means just get in touch and let us know. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform is revolutionary after all. Not only is the sheer depth and breadth of its technology, but in the way that it can transform your business. It connects people so they can collaborate on projects effectively together. It connects your data to advanced tools so you can make informed decisions on your designs, and it connects your team to powerful browser-based design applications, reducing the need for costly hardware. To give a wee overview of the platform in whole, I've got two wee other videos to show you. One of them will be another kind of SOLIDWORKS video that they've created for us. The other will actually be a video that both Mike and Grant created a few weeks ago. So I'll play both of them for us now, and then I'll take over again.
Your business runs on information, and as a product developer, you need more than the best design software. Connecting everyone in your business with real-time information, whenever and wherever needed, is key to your success. Instead of using an assortment of disconnected tools, imagine one unified, secure platform connecting stakeholders and their real-time data with product development solutions. A place where ideas can be vetted, plans can be plotted, potential solutions can be tested, and product designs can be optimized, all without leaving the collaborative space. A space where data management is built in and software updates are automatic so you can focus on what's most important to your business. SOLIDWORKS now offers not only the best product development tools in the business with new sub-D modeling capabilities, but now provides a fully collaborative 3D experience platform that connects your people to the right development tools, to real-time information when they need to make informed decisions. The future of your business is collaborative, and so is the new 3DEXPERIENCE collaborative platform empowering your business success. Unleash the true power of your teams today. To learn more, go to solidworks.com/offers.
As a business, let's imagine that you could get quickly up and running with a central communication and collaboration tool, which allows you to share files internally and externally, manage all your key projects, and not include any IT overheads, such as backups, expensive servers, or costly downtime due to upgrades. Let's also imagine that this tool went beyond generic file storage and allowed us to introduce approval life cycles and maintained all of our revisions automatically. Meet Tim. Tim is one of our customers, one of our best customers. But like many, in today's demanding climate, Tim needs short lead times. Tim needs us to be able to respond quickly to his needs. And whilst he loves our initial proposal, he needs a few changes to be made by this afternoon. Our project manager, Craig, now realises he only has a few short hours to brief the team and get these changes made. Craig's thinking he could maybe send out a few emails to get the team up to speed, but he recalls last time when a few emails found their way into the junk folder and critical detail was missed. TMS have recently upgraded all of their licenses to 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS, so they now have access to the platform and all of its powerful tools.
Okay, so let's jump into the 3DEXPERIENCE platform where Craig has all of the collaboration tools that come as standard. By creating a dashboard, he can quickly access all of the most important apps and information they'll use for this project. Dashboards can be shared and are completely configurable. They allow Craig to quickly access community posts, updates and important information. By clicking on the notification which arrived from his team and navigating to the Project Planner app, it's really easy to add comments and links to your work throughout the whole project. Initially he thought about sending emails asking for the team to start work on the changes required, but then he realised he can allocate tasks to various individuals throughout the project from the platform. Craig can also use one of the many apps on the platform to explore the product structure and open his designs directly in SOLIDWORKS. Previews are available to visually confirm that you have the correct part, and a whole range of other tools are only a mouse click away. Once the part is opened, you can edit the model and make the required changes in SOLIDWORKS as normal. This change requires a diameter modification, which again is nice and easy in your familiar SOLIDWORKS user interface. The 3DEXPERIENCE pane is your direct connection to the platform right inside SOLIDWORKS. If you have the correct permissions, it's very easy to reserve the part you want to work on, locking it to your local session. You can see that once a change has been made, the platform knows it's different and visually instructs you that a save is required. When saving, you can give the part a new revision and add any comments regarding the changes if you want. The part can be automatically unreserved for use by others, and the green tick indicates that the save has been successful. Craig now needs to uprev the full assembly, therefore identifying this as the new product they should be using. He does this again by easily navigating to the top level and opening in SOLIDWORKS. Scrolling through the assembly, the new revision is clearly visible and the rest of the parts look fine too. It's time to go ahead and move this assembly to revision B1. Everything is looking good in the structure list, so let's go to save with options this time. Bookmarks Editor is a great app in the platform. It makes it really simple to navigate in a folder structure similar to Windows Explorer. Craig's team have already created a folder for this project, so he wants to make sure all of the new model information is stored there for quick access. By clicking on the bookmark button, he can navigate to the folders they're working in and save a link right there. You can see the assembly has now been saved, updated, and now showing as revision B1. Jumping back into the Bookmark Editor app and locating the updated bracket, he can simply drag and drop a file link into the Project Planner task, and this link will remain with the task, so there is a direct connection now with the part in the collaborative space and this project. Checking everything looks complete and the link is attached, he can then drag the task to complete, which will notify the rest of the team. There's just one more thing he needs to do before the part can be released. Clicking on the Bookmark tab again, he can select the physical product and change the maturity state from in work to released. Done. But wait a minute, this maturity change will need the engineering manager Alan's approval before it's released. It looks like we've hit a roadblock now because Alan is out of the office on a camping holiday. How are we going to complete this now?
So Alan's camping trip needn't be cut short. Alan can review the brief, see the great work carried out by the team, and even see the design changes in situ on the model using nothing but his mobile phone. Putting his seal of approval on the design changes confirms that the team has pulled it off once again, with a little help from the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. When the project is mission critical, you need a flexible tool that allows you to manage the timeline, securely share your data, and communicate with all the key team members. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform is the singular tool that connects the disconnected anytime, anywhere, using any device.
So hopefully that gives you an idea of what the platform is all about. And through the rest of this morning, we'll show you some of the new stuff that's in the platform. What we're going to show is in relation to FDO2. FDO3 did come out just a couple weeks ago. I think it was about 2.5 weeks ago now. We didn't quite be able to fit in the timescale some of the new stuff in there. But if you are interested, let us know and we can show you what's new with that release. And these FDO2, FDO3 releases, they're pretty much the equivalent of the service pack updates that you guys will probably be familiar with SOLIDWORKS, where every couple of months, additional features and enhancements are added in for us. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Mike, who's going to take us through a little bit about cloud collaboration.
That was a really quick story about how any typical customer can use the 3DEXPERIENCE platform in time-critical situations. But let's take a deeper look at what's involved and how the platform could work in your office. The next few sections concentrate on connecting your SOLIDWORKS data to the cloud and what you can do with it afterwards. Storing, managing and collaborating on design data is a challenge every company faces. Now, with many more teams working remotely, there are questions on everyone's mind. How can we securely centralise our data, improve collaboration, and design concurrently while maintaining our design tool of choice, SOLIDWORKS? These were the challenges Square Robot sought to address when they adopted cloud data management with SOLIDWORKS and Innovia. Let's follow a small design team to see what it looks like to store and manage SOLIDWORKS desktop data in the cloud. We'll begin by dropping in on Eric, the engineer, as he starts his day working in SOLIDWORKS desktop. He receives a notification from his manager, Megan. Clicking the pop-up opens the 3D Swim app, where he sees a discussion thread involving a new design request. He's been asked to add rollers to an existing assembly. He initiates a search for the related CAD model and drags it into his SOLIDWORKS session. It's just that simple to access the SOLIDWORKS data that's securely stored in the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. He reserves the assembly to give himself write access. He's now made his design changes, but before saving back to the cloud, he wants to know where this assembly is used. The Relations app gives him the graphical view of the parent-child dependencies. He finds the top-level assembly and opens it right into his session. He sees the familiar options to open the model, resolved, lightweight, or enlarged design review mode. Choosing lightweight means SOLIDWORKS doesn't have to download every part contained in the assembly, and that's a big time saver for the large models Eric usually works with. With the top level assembly up to date, he reserves it and clicks save. Eric creates a new revision of the lid now that the rollers have been added. Despite this being a pretty large assembly, the time taken to save is efficient because only the models that have changed need to be saved back to the cloud. That was easy. In fact, his team was productive from day one because connecting their data to the cloud required no customization or special setup. Later on, Eric still has some work to do that doesn't require modelling in SOLIDWORKS. All his 3DEXPERIENCE apps are accessible from any browser, and with his data safely in the cloud, he has the freedom and mobility to keep working from just about anywhere, on any device. He loads the top level into the Product Structure Explorer. This app provides a graphical view and list view at the same time. He can arrange and filter the display any way he likes. He needs to locate the newly added roller assembly within the structure in order to attach a supporting document. In this case, it's going to be a PDF with installation instructions. Now it's time to give Megan an update on his progress. Instead of an email or a phone call or a web meeting, Eric tailors an interactive dashboard that will have exactly the information he wants her to review. First, he adds the 3D Play viewing app preloaded with the top level assembly. He also grabs a screenshot that he can post back to the discussion thread. Next, he launches the Bookmarks app, which is a convenient way of organising shortcuts to frequently used or favourite items. His manager Megan likes this because it keeps her most important information right at her fingertips. When he's ready to share the dashboard, he just copies the link. As a last step, Eric opens up his 3D Swim app in the side panel. He adds a comment, pastes the link to the shared dashboard, and inserts a screenshot of the latest design. Connecting SOLIDWORKS to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is the best of both worlds, cloud and desktop. It provides a fast and easy way to store, manage and share design data with the convenience and security of the cloud. There's little to no setup required, so users can be productive right away. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform is much more than just saving SOLIDWORKS data to the cloud. For non-CAD users like Megan, the engineering manager, the platform gives her a simple browser-based approach to managing her team more efficiently. Let's see how she uses the 3DEXPERIENCE platform apps to streamline collaboration.
Megan opens her browser and sees Eric has replied to her message. He's included a link that she can add to her existing dashboard. The 3D Play viewing app and Bookmarks app are preloaded with the data Megan needs to review his latest designs. Fully interactive viewing of even large 3D models is a breeze on any device, especially ones with touchscreens. There's no special hardware required and no CAD licenses needed. Megan uses the measure tool to verify the proper radius on the wall roller assembly. Oops, I've set the wrong units, but converting that to inches, it confirms we've got 25 inches in there. But looks closer at the roller arms. She wonders if there might be excessive twisting without some kind of support member between them. She launches the Issues 3D app to log a record of the issue. It's just one of the many ways the team could use Innovia to track problem reports or change requests. She tags the related 3D models and verifies the right people are assigned to the issue. In this case, Eric will be automatically notified through the platform. There's no need for follow-up with an email or a phone call. It's such a more streamlined way to collaborate. She now launches 3D Markup. The app gives her extended tools to document the issue. She can create multiple views and add various annotations right on the 3D model. The markup and all other relevant information is self-contained within the issue and available to all stakeholders. While Eric gets to work on the design issue, Megan has a job for Debbie the designer. She uses the Collaborative Tasks app to assign Debbie with adding a hardware kit and creating a drawing for the wheel roller assembly. Just like the Issue app, Collaborative Tasks collect all the communications, assignees, and 3D model data in one spot and displays the progress of her tasks in a single dashboard tab, giving Megan an overview of everything in her radar. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform helps Megan streamline collaboration with her team, all from a browser on any device with no software installed. The intuitive apps eliminate dozens of other disconnected solutions, improving productivity and providing clear focus for our team members. The customer needs a quick response, so Megan's design team will need to work on the same SOLIDWORKS model at the same time. Not having proper write access, accidentally overwriting someone else's work. These things happen all the time with traditional file-based data management, and it's even harder when workers are working remotely, such as these times that we're going through now. Let's see how 3D Experience Platform enables a more seamless, error-free approach to concurrent design. Let's check in on Debbie. She has a collaborative task open, running inside her SOLIDWORKS task pane. She sees the task that has been assigned to her and drags it to in progress. The related CAD model is already attached, so just needs to add it to her session. All of Debbie's changes occur at the assembly level, so she only needs to reserve the top level for write access. She's added the fastener kit and saves it to the cloud so any other users will be able to see her latest updates. Next, she lays out a 2D drawing with a bill of materials that Megan will need to show the customers. Meanwhile, Eric gets to work on the stability problem. The Issues Management app keeps track of his progress and carries along all the information he needs to get to work. He starts by opening the attached 3D markup. He sees Megan's notes and clicks through the 3D geometry to find the affected subassembly. Megan attached the roller assembly, but Eric needs to reference its parent assembly as well. He locates it through the Relations app and attaches it to the issue. From here, you can open it directly into his SOLIDWORKS session. But this is where it gets interesting. This is the same assembly Debbie is already working on. That's okay. Eric only needs write access to the wheel roller assembly itself. The top level assembly is just for visual reference. He reserves what he needs and gets to work adding the stabilizing member. When he tries to save the assembly, he sees that there are subcomponents that also need to be saved that he didn't reserve. On the fly, the software gives write access to those additional files without causing an interruption to Eric's workflow. The save is complete, and now the assembly is up to date and safely uploaded to the cloud. Problem solved. Eric moves the issue status to in approval for Megan to review. Since Debbie is still working in the assembly, Eric needs to let her know he's finished making changes, so he uses the built-in conversations tool to send her an instant message. What does Debbie do? Debbie just needs to refresh the assembly to get the latest version from the server, and then she's up to date, including the drawing, which is now ready to be saved as well. To close the loop, she returns to her collaborative tasks, attaches the drawing, leaves a comment to notify Megan, and moves the task to complete, all without leaving her SOLIDWORKS design session. Now, jumping back to Megan. One way she keeps up to date with her team is through her notification panel. Anytime there's a status change, an update, or a comment, among other things, on anything that she's involved with, it shows up here. First, she checks in on the issue she assigned to Eric. Her original 3D markup automatically shows the latest design changes. Everything looks good, so she marks the issue as complete. Issue management on the 3D Experience platform turns out to be a great way for Megan's company to log the history of problem reports and change requests, a must-have for their highly regulated industry. Now to take a look at Debbie's work. Megan switches to her Bookmarks app, and there's a drawing. She drags it into the 3D Play viewer. It's exactly what she needs to show the concept off to her customers. She marks the drawing as released so it can be changed for the duration of the customer's approval process. Megan posts a quick comment on her original discussion thread to congratulate her team on finishing this stage of the project. Multiple designers accessing the same files simultaneously, we all know how tricky that can be with traditional file-based storage. But with SOLIDWORKS plus Innovia, concurrent design is easy because the PLM tools are ready to use out the box. Users can tell right away who's working on what, so they can avoid common problems like permission issues, version mismatches, and accidental overwrites. And when there are changes, the various notification tools built into the 3D Experience platform keep everyone in the loop. teams can design faster together with fewer errors, even when workers are remote. We've then got a little quote from Square Robot that I'll read out just now. Being a startup, you have to move fast. What was important to us was being able to remain collaborative because that's how we keep the speed up. With SOLIDWORKS, we have a cloud-based PLM solution that allows models to be shared over great distances and be synchronized instantly. And that was from the co-founder of Square Robot. I'll now pass it over to Grant, who's going to start to introduce the next stage about next level validation and bring in the whole Simolia side of things as well.
Thanks for that, Craig. Now let's take a look and see why in SOLIDWORKS 2021 your design validation is taken to the next level. As is often the case, discovering product performance issues early on in the design phase not only increases your bottom line as a company by avoiding costly rework, but empowers you as the designer, engineer or analyst to ultimately make a better product. Figuring out the best way to test your design takes multiple iterations, and your ability to rapidly test these various scenarios helps you and your team make more informed decisions faster. Solving design challenges is one thing, manufacturing the product is another, and being able to validate how your product is manufactured increases the value of your validation efforts. Let me tell you how we're going to learn about these new tools. We're going to follow a designer and a structural analyst to see how they collaborate and solve these various scenarios using the BioDAP Moto Knee. Debbie, the designer, is working on updating the mechanics of the Moto Knee, a next-gen prosthetic designed to withstand high impacts of action sports. From her company's dashboard, she sees that Adam, the analyst, found a mechanical issue with the first revision. Adam's simulation results can be viewed right from a web browser, and Debbie confirms that the lower bracket definitely needs to be redesigned based on Adam's findings, which we're seeing now. The simulation results tell Debbie where the changes need to be made so that she can start designing a new revision of this part. Proud of her work, she thinks her new design will now be strong enough. But before she sends the new design to Adam, she wants to validate it herself. The simulation apps in her structural designer role can guide her through all of the steps to validate the strength of her new design. Feeling confident in her new design, Debbie updates the Moto Knee assembly to the new revision. Both Adam and Debbie are working from the same dashboard, so Adam can see the new simulation and review it, and Adam will also move forward with validating the new assembly. Here is something else worth considering. Since we've got both the design and the simulation data stored and connected on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, Adam's able to easily create a new revision of the simulation that he done earlier. We could never do that before, so this is a real game changer. After opening the new revision, he simply replaces the old model with the new one to reflect Debbie's changes. From there, it just needs to modify any of the geometry, loads and connections that associate with the new geometry and resolve the analysis. And just like Debbie, Adam also uses the assistant to make sure he doesn't miss anything out of the setup before he runs that study. With the results now complete, Adam compares the two studies side by side. He confirms that the new Moto Knee lower bracket is now strong enough and is no longer suffering from the excessive displacement of the earlier design and what we've seen before. I'd say with absolute confidence that working in this new collaborative design validation way helps evolve your designs quicker, and I'm certain when you guys get to use it for yourselves, you'll love it too. I'll now pass back to Kieran, who's going to talk a little bit about virtual prototyping. Take it away, Kieran.
Thanks for that, Grant. But if you think that looks good, just wait until you see this. So moving on to the virtual prototyping, and we're going to stick with Adam and his validation of the Moto Knee. Now, it's great up until this point he's been able to validate the strength of the new bracket that he's designed. However, he now needs to consider how this is going to affect the assembly as a whole. So due to the harsh conditions of action sports, the motor knee is often subject to harmonic and random vibration loading. Furthermore, BioAdapt created this motor knee to be adaptable to many different extreme environments, so there are multiple different configurations of the design. Each of these configurations is customized for the feel of the wearer and based around the sport that they are competing in. So any changes made to all of these configurations need to be validated for each extreme loading condition. Similar to the creation of the linear structural validation, Adam's able to create a frequency scenario with the apps provided in his structural performance engineering role. He used the assistant to complete all the necessary steps for the setup. After solving, Adam's relieved that most of the natural frequencies for this configuration of the motor knee are outside of the expected operating region. Now, there are still a few concerns with regards to vibration. So in order to analyse this a little further, Adam then creates a random vibration scenario using the structural mechanics engineer role. This role expands the type of physics that can be addressed and the types of studies that can be solved. Conventionally, the new scenarios are stored in the same simulation project as the previous results. Now, another nice little tip when it comes to all of these studies, if you come to make any changes within SOLIDWORKS, those changes are automatically updated within our simulation project. The only objects that need to be remeshed are the ones that have been updated, and that's easily done using a quick update process. However, going back to Adam and his knee, once the simulation's been run, you can see that the performance of this configuration is acceptable. Now that he has both the natural frequency and random vibration studies complete for one of the configurations, he can easily repurpose the studies and solve additional motor knee configurations at another time. For now, he's going to move on with the next validation task. Adam now needs to understand how the different configurations of the motor knee will perform under different dynamic loading environments. So Adam creates an explicit dynamic study allowing him to understand the force feedback felt by the wearer and to ensure comfort and performance. Furthermore, Adam's then able to continue real-life testing and modifies the spring and dampener properties of the shock. The motor knee is designed to be configured quickly by each user, and going through this battery of studies ensures that the wearer of the motor knee will be able to adapt their prosthetic on the fly for maximum performance and maximum flexibility. So I'm sure you can agree, using these virtual prototyping techniques that we've just seen there, we can start to make real informed decisions in order to improve the products that we're designing. Following from that, I'm going to pass it over to Grant again, who's going to take you over some advanced simulations within Simulia.
Thanks for that, Kieran. So based on his calculations, Adams determined that a deep drawn steel foot cover would be the least expensive way to go to create a cover that's going to protect the valuable components inside this BioAdapt foot. Deep draw manufacturing's got a lot of variables, and retooling a puncher die can be really expensive, so Adam wants to make sure that he gets everything right first time to not incur any additional costs. By making use of conversations in 3D Swim, Adam's asking Debbie to make him a model for use in the deep draw analysis. She's already on top of it, ahead of the game, and tells him where he can find the model. So let's get to it. From his simulation app, Adam can open the model right away and create the new study. His goal here is to discover how close the resultant metal shape will be to the original design. We also want to figure out how much thinning is going to occur in the material, and also it would be really handy here to determine the minimum blank size to achieve the desired shape. Adam makes quick work of setting up the properties and the boundary conditions to simulate the manufacturing operation. Since he's using the explicit dynamic solver, the complex contacts and material behaviour is solved really quickly. Adam discovers that the thickness variation across the deformed shape is pretty nominal. So now, let's turn our attention onto optimising the size and the form of the blank. In order to optimise the amount of material used for each foot cover produced, Adam makes another design request to Debbie to make the modification. In this case, Debbie's best use is going to be Xdesign, the design app in the 3D Creator role. This will allow her to make the appropriate modifications and pass back to Adam. Back in his simulation app, Adam updates the model and reruns the study. The results now show that he has determined the best size stock for the manufacturing operation. It's not only about the additional tools that 3D Experience brings with it, it's the ease of which we can communicate with our co-workers, and hopefully in this short demonstration that's come across pretty well. As BioDAP President Mike Schultz says, it's tools like these that allow the BioDAP prosthetic to be the very best it can be. As a designer, you've always required the most powerful and therefore most expensive workstations on the market. But with more and more workforces working remotely than ever before, you need a more flexible environment than that. With the 3D Experience platform, you can design on the cloud with any device without sacrificing performance. It allows you to stay on top of your work and remain productive no matter where you are and what device you're on. And with that, let's get you back to Kieran, who's going to explore this massively flexible way of working a little bit further.
Thanks for that, Grant. That all looks great. There's a bit of the 3D Experience platform that I really enjoy is the Simulia side of things. There's some great stuff you can do with that. Now, moving on to the last section for today is looking at cloud-based design. Now, again, just like the rest of the subsections that we've had, we have broken this down into a few different sections within here. So what we're going to look at first is industrial design. Then going to follow that up with mechanical design, sheet metal, and finally wrap things up with rendering. Now, in order to show this one off, as I said, we're going to start with industrial design, but we're going to bring in our design team again with Dan the designer and Don the designer. So Dan the designer is in charge of all the ergonomic shapes, if I can say it, and Don the designer is in charge of the mechanical side of things. So if we start off with Dan the designer, and what he's going to do is he's going to jump into one of the applications that he has, which is X-Shape. Now, Dan's been tasked with the job of creating the handle for this circular saw that we have here. And the way that he's going to start is by simply selecting the shape that he wants to start with for this, and simply dragging and dropping it into his graphics area. What you'll find is it'll snap into the origin position. And from there, you can then decide how he wants to set this up, whether he wants to make use of some symmetry within the mid-plane. But with the latest update, what we can also do is use the option to crease edges. That way you can make use of some flat faces at the ends of this cylinder, which he really wants to utilise within this design. Once he's got his shape in place, he can then look at scaling this down to be the shape that he wants. Now, for this, we've always had the ability to scale by distance, but what we now have the capability of is to use this bounding box option, where we can now scale via our 3-axis that we have in order to scale into the shape that we want. Once that's in place, we then want to maneuver this shape into position. Now, Control A is a well-known keyboard shortcut for select all, but it's finally been added to our X-Shape app. It then picks up all of the vertices that we have in there. Now, another great thing to know is if we use our selection filters for the likes of select face and use Control A, it will pick up all the faces instead of the vertices as well. So a useful little trick to know. But with all the vertices selected, I can then make use of my triad to rotate this component round, drag it into place, and then we can start to work on scaling this up, scaling this down even, and getting it into shape. Now for this end section, Dan's decided that he wants to try and scale down the entire face. However, he really wants to keep the aspect ratio of that face. So again, using the Alt key as he drags down on the scaling dots here, you can see that it will retain the shape of the end face while scaling it down. Now using the Alt key, it tends to scale things in 3 directions, but of course because this is a flat face to begin with, it's not going to scale in that third direction. Now this next little enhancement is one of the huge ones within this release. What we can now do is we can insert ordered geometrical sets, or what we can call feature sets for short. And what this basically allows us to do is have multiple feature trees within the same tree. So what we can start to do is, in this example, we'll say we've got our start shape that we're going to start with for our designs, but we actually want to bring together a few different concepts. So what we can do is create a new feature group within here, and what we can then do is basically copy and paste subdivisions into each of the sets. What this means is I've always got that starting shape to go back to. Even if I make a mess of this design, I can always drop back to my starting shape and start again. And again, because I want to create multiple concepts, it's a great way of doing it. Once I've got those in place, I can then start to work on dragging this into position until I'm happy with it. Again, just using my box selection and using my triads to drag the points. And then finally, once Dan's finished, he then wants to share this with the rest of his team. Now, in previous releases, this has always been a little bit clunky because we've never been able to directly share this from the app. But with this release, what we're now able to do is publish this into one of our 3D Swim communities directly from our X apps. What this means is that we can now upload this, add in some information like descriptions, set the file options that we want, and then the rest of the team can open this up, rotate it round in our 3D Play app, and even add little comments and markups if they want to as well. Just makes it even quicker and easier than ever to collaborate on designs and meet your goal at a faster rate. Now, that pretty much wraps up the industrial design role. Now, as it suggests, it basically allows you to create complex shapes at an instance with ease. So it's a really, really fun app to work with. So moving on from industrial design, we're now going to have a look at mechanical design. Now for this, we're going to swap over from Dan the designer. We're now going to look at Don the designer, who's going to look at more of the manufacturing side of things. So brilliant, Don's set everything up for the grip that we have here, but it's going to be Don's job even to connect this up. So you want to start off with a little base plate to begin with, and this way you'll notice the first nice little enhancement. You can skip the sketch stage and simply select the face and add the option to extrude out. No need for a sketch. Once he's got that done, he then wants to further his design by making use of the ellipse tool. So you can then sketch in his ellipse, and this way we'll see we now have 4 quadrants in here for our ellipse, similar to what we do in SOLIDWORks. We can then either drag those quadrants round in order to place them, or we can simply add in some relations as we go. From here, we can then look to add in the feature just like last time. Say we go for an extrude, add in the end condition, click OK on it, and then we have our finished result. Now looking at it, it doesn't look too pleasing to the eye at the moment, so we're going to modify things a little bit. So what we'll do is we'll roll back in our feature tree, and we'll add in a sketch for a path for the design instead. For this, we're just going to use a 2-point spline. And notice how we have these handles here to conveniently manipulate the spline by simply dragging them out in order to change the curvature of the spline. Again, we can add in some relations to further define this spline. And then finally, we're going to roll forwards again and simply double click on the existing feature. And that's going to take us into what we call the super feature. Now, the reason we call it the super feature is because it's not only one feature. Any time we can actually change from it being an extrude, a revolve, a sweep, to be anything else that we want it to be. Hence the name, super feature. Not only that, it can also be a cut, it could be a surface, it could also be a thin component if we wanted to as well. The opportunities are endless with the super feature control. Once that's in place, we then want to consider draft within our design. And again, using this parting line analysis, we're simply able to find the suitable parting line for this design. Once that's in place, we're then just going to skip forward a few steps here. And what we've done is we've added in a little split line all the way around the component. From there, I'm then just going to select the face from the top and bottom sections, and this way we're going to look at something that we actually saw in the previous section with those geometric sets that we talked about. What we can do is basically select a face from each of the what would be separate components, and we can now separate those out to be new order geometric sets. This now makes all the features completely independent from each other. That way we don't accidentally change one when we mean to change the other instead. We can then start to finish this design off by using our shell command, so we'll go with a 2 mm wall thickness, and finally we're going to strengthen that up with a little rib within here. Now notice with the rib, I wasn't too picky about the end conditions for the lines themselves. I simply sketched in roughly where I want the rib to be, just like we would in SOLIDWORKS, and the rib tool does the rest. From that point, that's our design complete. It's then ready for injection molding. So as you can see, using the mechanical design, or what we call X design within there, we can now design with precision anywhere at any time on any device. Now the key thing about that is it really is any device. We can use our tablets, our phones, our laptops, literally anything. And that's one of the great things about using the platform. Now, another nice little thing to know, if we actually have access to the industrial designer and mechanical designer role, what we actually have the capability of doing is seamlessly swapping between these two applications simply by hitting the X key on our keyboard. And the same thing goes for the other roles that we have available as well, so the likes of our sheet metal and rendering applications as well. It's just a simple click of a button and we seamlessly swap from one to the other. Now, that's enough from that side of things. What we're going to do is I'm going to pass you over now to Scott, who's going to further Don's designs with some sheet metal work.
Thanks, Kieran. That all looks really good. So let's now look at some sheet metal design in the cloud. And on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, all applications are compatible with each other. So after a switch from XDesign to X Sheet Metal, the toolbars in Don's user interface update so he can stay focused on his design. Now the angle bracket and base plate of this circular saw aren't only expensive to manufacture, but also require some additional assembly steps. So Don is using the 3D Sheet Metal Creator to consolidate these two components into one. And Don will start by isolating the components he plans to replace, allowing him to create the new replacement component. And copying the footprint from the original base will give Don a head start on the redesign. Now, these holes are no longer necessary, so they can be removed, and X Sheet Metal includes advanced context recognition, which means he'll have quick access to the tools he wants. Now as he gets started, Don is prompted to provide some overall sheet metal parameters that will be used as his default values, and this will save him some time on any features he's working on down the line. Don hides the original base plate as he's captured all he needs for this first feature, and to enhance the design he can bend this front edge upwards so the base can glide over any workpieces. The position of the bend is defined by a sketched line and can be set to any angle. But as we know, not all sheet metal features require a sketch. In this case, Don selects the outer edges of the base to add some short walls, and there are multiple alignment options available to position the added material, such as measurement criteria and material side. And to confirm that the corners were trimmed per the default parameters, this design can be flattened at any time so Don can have a look. Now this new cost-effective design requires a flange that matches the angle bracket, and this is easily done using X Sheet Metal. Taking advantage of the context-sensitive menu, Don creates a rough clearance cut for this new flange. Once again, Don makes life easier for himself by converting the profile from the previous design and making some small adjustments. To strengthen the connection to the base plate, he'll remove these entities and close the gap by merging the endpoints. And even though this sketch was created out of plane, it can be still used to create a wall-on-edge feature. Now the default tangent relief that Don set earlier on in his project might not apply here, but Don can override this on the fly for this particular instance. Finally, he'll want to adjust the material side to ensure that the flange doesn't interfere with other components, And to simplify manufacturing, Don can check for overlap in geometry in the flat pattern. With an overlap detected, he can then measure the highlighted edges to assess how big of an adjustment needs to be made. And by subtracting the necessary clearance directly from the dimension field, X sheet metal calculates this and reduces the risk of entering the wrong value. Sharp edges could be dangerous to the end user and increase the difficulty to cut, so Don uses the corner tool to gather up all the edges and round them off. Another way Don can improve this design is by adding a guide rail. This will require a pair of clearance cuts through the side walls, and Don starts with a rectangular sketch offset from the end face of the guide rail. By deselecting the link to thickness option on the cutout tool, the cut can extend through the entire model, and all cut faces will be created normal to each surface to allow for a conventional cutting process. Now, a slot needs to be created to hold the guide rail in place. In manufacturing, a feature like this could be stamped with a forming tool, and it can be modelled using the exact same technique. First, Don will have to find the tool using the platform's search capabilities. Then you can define its location on the model with a sketch point. Finally, the user stamp feature allows him to specify the direction, the fillet parameters, and which faces to remove from the resulting geometry. Now, to give his sheet metal component a realistic look, Don searches the material database for a galvanised metal appearance and applies it to the part. These appearances are perfect for making design reviews more engaging and will also aid further work on the part, such as product renderings. So Don will now export his design to the cutting machine using the industry standard DXF format. This will include the cutting profile, bend lines, and user stamps, and saving it to his 3D drive allows him to share the file with anyone, and they can view the design and add markups using the 3D Play app. Additionally, these markups can be shared to a community to notify users and customers and discuss further changes. Before closing his browser for the day though, Don notices another component that will require a flat pattern before it can be manufactured. Now, unfortunately, this component was created using traditional modelling features like extrudes and cuts, but Don is still able to get the information he needs using the Recognise tool and can accurately calculate a flat pattern. So like we said at the start, with the right tools, you can get your job done faster and at a higher quality. And the Sheet Metal Creator role on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform provides a purpose-built environment that will have your designs ready for manufacturing in no time. But before it gets to manufacturing, Don passes the design over to Dan, who's going to apply some material finishes. So let's now look at some of the rendering capabilities of the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. In order to kick off some rendering work, Dan is working in the 3D render role. After creating a new project, he has instant access to all of the existing design data. Dan is able to take advantage of the clean user interface, which makes it easy to start creating some realistic renders straight away. Some of the components in the circular saw already had appearances applied during the design phase, and since these are retained in the rendering project, Dan can dive straight into making his modifications. Creating a new scene lets Dan modify the appearances, changing red to blue for the housing and adding a light grey on the blade guard. Now, at any point, Dan can look at the rendering preview to check in on his progress and make sure everything looks okay. And this is a perfect way to verify that the material choices and colour selections are suitable before moving on to the final render. Simple camera settings can also be modified on the fly, so Dan decides that a 35mm wide angle lens and a 16:9 aspect ratio look best here. And now it's time to render the project, and simple output options let Dan adjust his images to a standard HD resolution and high quality setting. With a click of the mouse, the platform takes over and starts rendering his image on the cloud. Returning back to the original variation, Dan will now generate another render, which he can do while the first image is still being processed. This time, an interactive turntable will be used to extend a virtual walk around to the rest of the team. The job is submitted and run alongside his earlier request. 3D Render allows multiple rendering processes to be done in parallel, so Dan doesn't need to slow down and can move on to his next task. After a few minutes, each rendering project is complete and ready to be shared. Dan has the option to download locally, save to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, or directly post to the team's collaborative community, where anyone can view and comment to help finalise their decision. Now that the colour has been decided on, Dan's next task is to generate some marketing images. 3D render supports complex materials, so these representations of the saw blade will add extra detail for the final outputs. A quick search, a drag and drop, and the custom material is applied. A glimpse of the preview window and Dan gets instant feedback on his material selection. Other design assets can be reused and added into a 3D render project. Searching the team design library shows a woodworking table, which Dan decides to drag in and position alongside the saw for the final output. Applying an ambience to the background adds a nice final touch, and just a few tweaks to the background size, exposure and camera perspective give us the perfect shot. Dan is once again ready to send another project to the cloud. Using 4K resolution with the ultra high quality rendering option, this image will be approved for publication in no time. So whether you're creating quick renders for design reviews or generating high quality marketing images, 3D Render provides an easy and scalable option for all users. And that brings us to the end of our presentations on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So we've had a look at 3D Sculptor, 3D Creator, 3D Sheet Metal Creator, and 3D Render. And all of these roles introduce new capabilities and more mobility without sacrificing any of the design tools that we already know. And all of this can be accessed in your own time, wherever you're working and on any device. So we now have a section on Mindesk, so I'll pass you over to that.
Thanks, Scott. Just before I pass you over to Vittorio from Mindesk, for those of you who haven't seen some of the really cool stuff you can do on the VR side with SOLIDWORKS and Mindesk, you're in for a real treat. TMS have been a reseller for Mindesk VR coming up for just over a year, and some of the improvements in the last release especially have made it an invaluable tool for design and engineering teams looking for an immersive experience with SOLIDWORKS. We already have VR for eDrawings, but Mindesk really allows you to start working on models while you're immersed in the models themselves. Over to you, Vittorio.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vittorio Bava, and I work for Vaction Technologies, which is the company I'm going to tell you about today, and in particular, the products related to SOLIDWORKS and their use in virtual reality. First, a little overview about the company. We are a listed company on the Australian Stock Exchange with offices in Europe, North America, and Australasia. And the aim of our company is to be a one-stop shop for digital transformation services and software for manufacturing companies, spanning from the very early phases of product development, design, and engineering throughout all the value chain up until the after sales phase. Here is a chart that is an overview of our portfolio of products. We have products that are specific for the design phase, which is Mindesk. I'm one of the founders of Mindesk, which is a company that was acquired, and this is the topic we're going to talk about today. Mindesk products are used for real-time rendering and immersive design review, and also 3D modeling in virtual reality itself. Then we have Trainer Creator, which is a product that is used for training, as the name says, in virtual reality. And then FrameS is a generic visualization tool. Configurators could be produced for any specific request of the customer. And then we have Custom Solutions, which is umbrella category for every service or special request the customer may have, just for you to know we can satisfy whatever wish you have in terms of virtual reality and augmented reality software. So let's talk about Mindesk. Mindesk is a plugin for CAD software. Specifically is a plugin for SOLIDWORKS and for Rhino as well, for the ones of you that are familiar with that. Being a plugin, it means that you don't have to export anything. in order to visualize and operate and interact with your project in virtual reality. You just press one button and boom, you're in virtual reality. It can be used also with other colleagues in virtual reality. You could meet up to 4 people at the moment in virtual reality, and then you can use and inspect and operate on the same SOLIDWORKS project. Here is a video example, perhaps conveys the idea a little bit easier. I'm going to press pause and play a few times in order to have time to explain the various features we're going to see. So first of all, an example of the live link. See, now the user is going to take the robot arm and move it around, and you see in real time is moving also on the desktop on the left hand of the screen. This is because everything you do in virtual reality is connected to the SOLIDWORKS on the desktop. I mean, it's the same experience. This is collision detection, which is used to see when there is two solids that overlap. This is the move function that is used to have a training experience. You can unmount or remount the project. You're seeing in this case, it doesn't touch the assembly. It's just a virtual only experience on purpose, so you can make mistakes. You can also go on one-to-one scale and lock the scale to have a clearer perception of, I'm going to press pause, clearer perception of what is the object, what are the space requirements and the distances. This is an example of explosion and transparency taken straight out of SOLIDWORKS, and you can also take notes and have animations in virtual reality, and the animations are the same with SOLIDWORKS. You don't have to change anything in your workflow, just have to learn to press the play button. As mentioned before, you can also take notes in virtual reality, and you're going to notice that each person that participates has a different color, so you know who is writing what in this virtual reality experience. Then another interesting feature is the section plane that could be used also in combination with animations and other features. You can snap it to the axis. In this case it's green because it's snapped into the horizontal axis. You can also position it freely with your hand or snap it to some other axis. In this case blue is the vertical axis. You can also take snapshots, just almost like blinking, and then you save this picture and you save the picture of what you're seeing with your eyes. And this is an example of the multi-user experience. 2 colleagues working at the same time on the same object. They could also mount and unmount the object and do all the other things you've seen before. Interestingly, we also have a live link with Unreal, which is a third-party graphic engine. In this case, it is used to have a realistic rendering with an environment. In this case, is a workshop. And you can add photorealistic materials like paints with a metal effect. And then you can move your object and you will see that in real time. And that includes animation. So if you want to have a realistic animation taken directly from SOLIDWORKS, you just have to bring it to Unreal, which is free, by the way, and just drag and drop the colors to have it done. So this is an example, perhaps a little bit clearer, of the collaboration that I mentioned earlier. So in this case, you see the user below. We're seeing the first person perspective of these 2 users. The user below is dragging the wheel, and you see it changes. I mean, it is doing that directly on the assembly. And you saw it moving on the right hand side of the screen. And they're in one-to-one scale, so they're trying how is it the ergonomy of sitting on top of that bike. And You can imagine when it could be used, such a feature. For example, you have a project and you want to meet there with the engineer, the client, and the parts manufacturer and or supplier, or you name the stakeholder. They could be willing to participate, and since it's taken everything straight out of the CAD, there is very little possibility of misunderstandings. Actually, this saves a lot of time and reduces the possibility of errors due to misunderstandings or miscommunication. This was just a quick example with a popular object such as a bike, but that applies very well also to industrial automation. In general, the higher the complexity of an object, the more beneficial the virtual reality is, because it takes away the possibility of errors and misunderstandings. So, hope that was clear. If you're hearing this voice, by the way, you're probably watching a recorded video, but I'd be there during the meeting, so if you have questions at the end of the presentation, I'd be happy to answer them. So I'm going to go to the next slide. For the ones of you who are also using Rhino, just wanted to say that there is a plugin for Rhino as well, and it works very similarly. It has a few more features in terms of editing. This video is accelerated, you probably are noticing that, but with the plugin for Rhino, you can have a few more features about the editing of solids, scaling, and working with the parameters. Something similar might come for SOLIDWORKS in the next year, more or less. So Mindesk is compatible with any commercial headset out there, from the very popular ones that are going for a couple hundred quids to the super premium enterprise ones like the Vario that has retina resolution, and also works with the Logitech pen if any of you has that need to use a pen. Also, in terms of graphic cards, pretty much any graphic card is good as long as they're VR ready, which means professional VR graphic cards since the last 3 years should be good. If you have a Quadro, probably you're fine. Just make sure that the Quadro model that you have is on the VR Ready list on NVIDIA website. And also, if you have a GTX, anything from the 1060 and beyond should be all right. And just in case you have any question or need, you can, of course, always email us or your reseller, which is why we're here. TMS is our partner. You could see that on the map of our partners, the allegory of the proverbial son of Scotland. I would invite you to contact Mike if you have any question about the product. I will be supporting the answers as well, but TMS is our reseller and we were very happy to collaborate with them. And just in case you wanted to reach out directly for some other question, here you have my email and phone number. You have the addresses of the companies if you're interested in that. So thank you for your attention. I think I stayed within the time allowed. And if you have any questions, please write them in the chat or unmute yourself to ask the question. Thank you.
It's a real shame that this event has to be virtual this year. One of the major reasons is all the content that you've just seen previously, you've typically been able to try out with a VR headset that we usually bring along to our launch events. Hopefully, fingers crossed, next year we'll be in a better better position in order to do that. Now, going along the same sort of lines as VR, so talking about some sort of realistic images here, again, we're back to our little quiz of real or render here. So just like the previous 2 days, we've got 2 images on screen here. The trick is, are they real or are they renders? Again, we'll give it a few seconds just to let you decide which is which. Okay, I can see some answers coming in now. Looking at some good answers. Alright, okay then, we'll leave it at that. Let's just see who's right and who's not quite there. So the answer is, drum roll. That's right. A little bit of a trick with this one. They're in fact both renders. Again, both done within SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Again, it just goes to show you it doesn't matter what style of rendering that you're doing, whether it be simple components, an entire room, or even a building. The opportunities are endless when it comes to SOLIDWORKS Visualize. You can get realistic images out no matter what it is that you're trying to render. Now, if you've never tried out SOLIDWORKS Visualize, again, I would highly recommend that you do it. Especially because, believe it or not, anyone who's got SOLIDWORKS Professional Premium already has a Visualize Standard license included in their subscription. So if you want any assistance in getting that set up, please do get in touch with us and we'll help you out with it. So now that we've had our answers, we'll move on to our nice little wrap up for the day. Who would have thought it, guys? We're finally there. We've finally crossed the final hurdle and we've reached the end. Now, it's been action-packed 3 days, but just to wrap up day number 3 here, who could have thought you could do so many things within the cloud? The great thing about it is you don't need any great architecture in the background in order to do it. All you need is a simple laptop, tablet, or even your phone, and you can start to collaborate with your team, design things, and go about your business as you usually would, without the thought of any existing hardware in the background. Now, I'm sure you'll agree, over the past few days, it has been absolutely action-packed with a lot of great enhancements for this release. And that is what makes this release, of course, the best release ever. I'm sure you guys are dying to get back to the office and start using all of these new enhancements. But just before we finish up here, guys, let's just have a little recap of what we've seen over the past few days. The enhancements are just amazing with this release. And this journey over the past few days has been a roller coaster of a ride. And us here at TMS are so thankful to have you guys here along with us to enjoy the journey. Now, just to wrap things up, of course, we do have an option if anyone has any questions at the end here. By all means, pop them in the little question time box and we'll answer those as we go through them. And as always, guys, thank you for attending and have a safe journey home. That's for those of you who of course, are working from the office. The guys that are sat there in the pyjamas and the slippers, I'm sure you're relaxed enough already. Have a nice day, guys.